And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, Tom Vasel here.
Hey, Zee Garcia, what's happening?
Today we're taking a look at a game that did not just come out, although the reprint just happened of this, and that's San Juan. One of the most popular board games in the modern Euro games is Puerto Rico. It came out in 2001, I believe, very popular, lots of people love playing it, and so they announced they were making a card game version of it, which worries people because card game versions are usually not as good as the base game. This card game did not reach the popularity of Puerto Rico.
That would have been a hard feat anyway for anything.
But it certainly was very popular and is the direct inspiration for Race for the Galaxy and other games of that genre, and for a while was incredibly popular. And now it's back. Comes with an expansion in the box. Is it worth getting? Let us tell you. The goal of San Juan is to get the most points, and during the course of the game, people are going to be playing buildings in front of them. Now you'll notice as the game progresses, some buildings have a little purple background. This is an expansion to the game, but it's actually in the game, and there's no harm in throwing it in right away and just using all these extra cards. But at the bottom of each card are points, and once someone has 12 of these cards in front of them, 12 buildings that they've built, that will be the final round that game, and then you'll add up the points, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Players are going to start with a handful of cards. They're going to start with one building in play, an indigo plant. The one person is picked to be the governor, and that person is going to go first in the first round. Now, the way a round goes is each player goes, and when a player goes, they're going to pick one of these 5 roles in the middle of the table. They can pick producer, trader, builder, counselor, or prospector, and when they pick it, the person who picks it, each player is going to be able to do what the top thing says, and the privilege goes to the person who picked it. So if I pick, for example, the trader here, everyone can sell 1 good, but I get to sell 2 goods. And then once I pick it, we move it to show that it's been picked, and then the next player, after the governor, picks another one, then the next player, and so let's say it's a 3-player game. That would then end the round. These all get pushed up, they can be picked again, and the governor moves to somebody else who can pick one of them. So what do each of these roles do? Before I explain about roles, though, I need to talk about cards. Each card can be a building, and like I said, each player starts with a building at the beginning of the game. These buildings have costs on them, so this building here costs. How do you spend currency in this game? Well, cards in your hand can be played in front of you as buildings, or they can be used for costs. So this card could be paid to put an indigo plant into place. So, roles. The first role is the prospector. If you pick him, you get a card. No one else does. That's it. That's the simplest. You can also pick the counselor, where each player draws 2 cards, and they get to choose one of those cards to keep. But if you're the person who picked the role, you're drawing 5 cards and choosing one of those. These are good when you're looking for specific cards in the deck. Then the builder. Each person can build a building. Remember, if, for example, you're playing the sugar mill, it would cost 2 to build the sugar mill. So I'd have to discard 2 other cards from my hand. If you're the person who picked builder, though, you pay 1 card less. Then we have the producer. Each player can produce 1 good. Now, there are many different buildings in town. They're called town buildings, but these are production buildings. So here we have a silver smelter, a coffee roaster, tobacco storage, and you've already seen the sugar mill and indigo plant. There's 5 different types. When you produce on them, you simply take a card from the deck. It doesn't matter what's on the other side. This card becomes a good. So in this instance, this card becomes a silver. So when I play the producer, if I have a spot that can produce one, I'll produce one. And if I'm the person who picked it, I can put it in 2 of them. So if I have a silver and let's say a coffee, I would have 1 silver good and 1 coffee good. You can't put more than 1 good on each production building, but you can sell them, and that's with the trader. The trader lets you sell 1 good. How much are goods worth? Well, we have basically a pile of tiles here, so you turn over the top tile, and it shows you how much everything's worth. So here, indigos and sugar are sold for 1. The other 3, including coffee and silver, are sold for 2. But here, you can see silver's worth 3. Here, silver and coffee are both worth 3. Here, just silver's worth 3. So the numbers change slightly, and you're good. Indigo's always 1, but sugar can be 1 and 2. Tobacco can be 1 or 2, but it's usually 2. Coffee can be 2 or 3. And silver can be 2 or 3, but it's usually 3. And when you sell these, you draw more cards into your hand. So you're going to be selling cards to get cards and using these cards to build more cards in front of you. Many of the town buildings will give you special actions that you can do. Normally you can only have 9 cards in your hand, but a tower lets you, 6 cards in your hand at the end of the round, but a tower lets you have 12. A monument has no special ability, but it's worth 5 points. Other cards like this palace here give you extra bonus points at the end of the game. It gives you 1 victory point for every 4 that you have. Here, I can put a sold good underneath this, and for each sold good underneath it, at the end of the game, I will get an extra victory point. There are cards that give you special abilities as the game goes by, special things that you can do. Like at the beginning of a round here, I can discard 1 or 2 cards and then draw 1 or 2 cards. You can kind of cycle through your hand. Or here with the aqueduct, you can, whenever the producing phase happens and you produce goods, you get to produce 1 extra good. Or when you build a city building, it costs 1 less good. When you're building that, 1 less card from your hand. Or when you're selling goods, you can sell 1 extra good. And so you're trying to figure out the best combination. If you're playing with the expansion, there's this cathedral building in the middle of the table too, and the first person who wants to build it, it costs 7 to build it, can do so, and it will give you bonus points at the end of the game based on however many of the 6 cost buildings that people play. The 6 cost buildings are the buildings that often give people big bonus points, like this guild hall here, which gives you an extra point for each production building and 1 for each type of production building at the end of the game, which can be a lot of points. Once someone has 12 cards in front of them, you finish up the round, most points, winner. Now before we start, I don't know what you think of Puerto Rico. You're probably not a big fan of it.
I think Puerto Rico's fine, but it's not one of my favorite games.
Okay, I really like Puerto Rico. I believe I may have played San Juan before Puerto Rico. I don't know. No, I played Puerto Rico first, but they're not very similar at all other than theme, I think.
Right, sure. Well, the role selection is similar.
The role selection, but even the role selection in Puerto Rico was taken from other games. But it's a really neat mechanism. Mm-hmm. It's probably my favorite thing of the game, where you're trying to sit there and think, okay, I'm going to take Builder, but if I take Builder, I'm going to let Z build something. Mm-hmm. Or more importantly, why should I pick Sell stuff when I only have one thing to sell?
And someone else will pick it anyway.
I'll let someone else pick it, and then I'll sell my thing.
Sure.
There's a little bit of that going on. Now, the one card that I see chosen more than any other card is the build card, because it gives you a discount of 1.
Right.
And that's a big deal in this game, and so people will take that, because why give it to somebody else? And the whole goal of the game is to build the buildings.
Right. And to really build the buildings is sort of the timing element. I think of it more that way, because once you hit those 12 buildings, then the game's over. So if you are going for a quick game, then yeah, build buildings. But if not, then the strategy is to produce and sell, and make victory points that way, well, not victory points, but like gather up a big hand, and go for like the really big buildings, or just go quick and have all the small buildings. All that to say that the game, for a card game, has a lot of strategy, I feel. There's a lot here that you can do. It's really just cards and a couple of tiles, but the game gives you a lot of different avenues to pursue.
Yeah, what this game, I don't know if any other game did this beforehand, but it let you use the card in multiple ways. You use the card as a building, or as currency, or it became a good.
Right.
I don't remember any game doing that before this one, and that's such an easy concept. And the game, we're going to talk a little bit about comparisons to Race for the Galaxy.
Sure.
But coming back to this, I was just amazed at how simple this game is. Mm-hmm. I don't have to think that much. I mean, you get to make choices, and you have to make decisions, but you're looking at the cards you have and go, I want to build this building. Okay, well, I'll get rid of these cards. But sometimes you sit there and you hate having to sell some cards to build another card.
And that's my favorite part of the game. The role selection's great, and I enjoy that in any game that has it. But it's the turn angst of building up a big hand and then going, oh, I really want this 6-cost building. But that's going to cost me at least 5 cards if I do it with the build myself, or 6 if I do it on someone else's turn. Or maybe I can get this building out first, which is going to give me a 1-card discount later on. Oh, those choices are just so good. That angst of, I want all of them, but something's got to go to build the ones you want. I think that's the brilliance there.
This game, as I said before, Race for the Galaxy was based on this game.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, Race for the Galaxy kind of beat up on San Juan because I liked the added complexity. Race for the Galaxy is definitely more complex. There's more going on in it. Mm-hmm. And I liked it even though the role selection worked out in a slightly different way. I think I actually might like the role selection a little better in this one, although it's kind of a natural evolution. I really like San Juan. It's been a long time since I played it. I played it back in the day. Wasn't as fond of it as I am now. I don't think it's a perfect game. I think you can get into some games where some people will just draw a really cool combination of cards, like I have -1. There's one really powerful card that doubles the
your bonus for the round.
The privilege for taking a card, which is really powerful. And if someone might get a really cool combo at the beginning of the game, it can be hard to stop them. But that's not as much of a problem as it might sound, because the game isn't that long. And that doesn't happen, and you can mitigate that by taking hey, I'm going to draw 5 cards. I'm going to find that one card I'm looking for.
Sure.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I agree with you. Actually, this is one of my earliest games in this genre of games. I'm not counting mass market games, but
we're going back to the background.
This is,
black and white.
This is one of my earliest gaming memories, and even from then, I was enamored with it. And I have to say, I still am. I think this game holds up incredibly well. I was very glad to see it reprinted. If you haven't played it and you like card games at all, I think this is almost like requirement play for card players out there.
Yeah, don't let it faze you that it came out 10 years ago. Definitely try it out now. The expansion, to me, I love. It fits in seamlessly.
Oh, yeah.
There's no reason to play without it. If you never even heard there was an expansion, you wouldn't even really notice.
No.
The cards are fine, and it just adds more variety and more cool special effects. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I highly recommend this. Not as good as Race for the Galaxy, but I might play this one more often. Dice Tower Judgment. Excellent.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.
There.